What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MacTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my best of 2024 lists. I'm diving in. We're going to get all these out. I'm building up to the big one. Some people hit you with the big one. I want to build up to the big one. So these are my top 10 directorial debuts of 2024. These are the directors that most excite me. There are films on here that do not have audio description that I was thrown through my amount of screeners. I've seen considerably into the 400s of the movies that were released last year. So this list was really hard for me. A lot of people would put people like Dev Patel from Monkey Man and Anna Kendrick from Woman of the Hour here because they know who those people are, and they would make those lists, and the movies were really good. And as I was trimming down my list, I had them, but I was trimming it down. And ultimately, this list is a top 10. There is one honorable mention of somebody who I would have put on here, but it was a co-direction, and only one of them is it a featured directorial debut. The other person it's not, so I couldn't put it in my top 10. That's why I have one honorable mention. You can allow me one, because that makes sense, right? Like I'm explaining to you like half of the, but I can't fully put it on the list because it's not totally a directorial debut. So my honorable mention goes to Kelly O'Sullivan for Ghostlight. It's a co-direction with Alex Thompson. It is her feature directorial debut. She's only directed shorts up until this point. It is not his. So he has other features under his belt. So I really loved Ghostlight, and it would be insane for me to not have included that film in my top 10 list of the year, considering where you're going to keep seeing it on my lists throughout the remainder of them. So moving into the official top 10, who are the top 10, the debuts that have me most exciting? Usually when I look at this, I think about style. I think about what did somebody have to work with? You know, did they work with a cast of nobodies and then they turned in like a great movie? Did they make bold stylistic choices that make me really excited for the future? Is it a writer-director with a interesting new perspective? Like, what is it that we're looking at here? And I came up with 10 names that I'm excited to hear more from. So coming in at number 10, we have Josh Margolin for Thelma. I thought this was an interesting choice. And it's an action John Wick for seniors. It's bold. He had some fun choices. I would be interested to see where he goes next, what he does next, and who he casts next. I want to know, like, is this his thing? You know, is he going to continue to make this type of movie with other actors and who are above a certain age? Because a lot of them, I mean, Diane Keaton could use a movie like this. She keeps getting pulled into the worst movies. So she could use a movie like Thelma. I wouldn't be mad at it, you know? So Thelma was a surprise, and I think he deserves a spot and first-time feature. So moving up the list, number 9. Zelda Williams for Lisa Frankenstein. This movie actually was dripping with style. And for somebody who clearly grew up with a love of film coming down from her father, it was really interesting to see what Zelda would do for her first movie. And I'm one of the few people who actually enjoyed Lisa Frankenstein. It's not in my top films of the year, but I did score it pretty high, especially higher than average, I would say. So the film worked for me a little bit more than for other people. And I could see a style, like I could see a point of view, I could see perspective growing in Zelda. And I'm really excited to see more from her in the future. And I wonder what like her next project is going to be. I'm hoping that they give her sort of the money and latitude. I know Lisa Frankenstein didn't exactly light the box office on fire, but I would still be excited for her next thing. So moving up the list, number 8. Greg Jardin for It's What's Inside. I This movie surprised me. I liked this movie a lot. It's really complicated to try to put together and piece together. So for a directorial debut, it was kind of impressive that way. And it doesn't go at it from a strictly horror route. Although, oddly enough, I feel like that's the genre most people would assign it. I mean, there's some violence in it. There's a little bit of gore. So, yeah, I think it's an interesting little debut. If there's ever like a franchise reboot of something, I think he'd make maybe an interesting choice for something like, I don't know who's doing the I Know What You Did Last Summer uh, reboot, but he'd be an interesting choice for that if they haven't picked a director. So, yeah, moving up the list. Number 7 is Erica Tremblay for Fancy Dance. I really like this movie. I thought she did a really nice job. She made one choice towards the end that I didn't care for. I felt kind of was a little cheap, but other than that, I thought it was a really strong movie. Um, and the fact that she was able to get these performances, she also got a great child actor performance here, which they say never work with children and dogs. Well, she worked with a little girl who is sort of like the emotional anchor here, and did a really nice job with it. The representation here is strong, and I appreciate the uh, the approach that Erica took to telling a story about, um, you know, it's both sort of like a missing persons case. It's about sort of losing your heritage, losing your roots. It's got a lot of stuff sort of intertwined here. And every time I bring up Fancy Dance to people, they never know what it is. It's on Apple Plus, guys. This is not an obscure movie. This one actually does have audio description, as do Thelma, It's What's Inside, and Lisa Frankenstein. So these movies you can watch. Please do. Fancy Dance was criminally underwatched this year, and every time I tried to bring it up to anybody about like why it was in the bests of my various things, people were like, What is that?" Which is a shame. It's a shame because I thought Lily Gladstone was better in Fancy Dance and she was in Killers of the Flower Moon. Anyway, moving up the list. Number 6. Vera Drew for The People's Joker. This does not have audio description, but there's no way to look at this and to look at what Vera pulled off and say that there isn't a bold directorial vision here, that there isn't a style, that there isn't a choice. I don't know where to go from here. Is it a one-off? Are the following movies going to be hokey? This is so specific that, it's a very personal story, applying her transgenderness to the Bat world. I don't know how many more times she's going to get this swing, but I really hope that Vera Drew at least proved herself creatively to enough people that she does get that swing. I would love to see what she could do with a cast, like an actual cast, with actors and everything, and a budget, and some audio description. I'd love to see that film, but as a directorial debut, I was kind of floored and a little blown away by The People's Joker when I saw it. And it's like one of the top films of the year that I wish had audio description. So it could be in my top films of the year list, because that list is going to only have films that have audio description. So, but I want to recognize individual performances or directors and not punish them for being in things that didn't have audio description ultimately, because they may not have had that level of control. So Vera Drew gets a mention here for directorial debut. I would be so interested to see what they could do next, and that's a key factor in being on this list. Next up is India Donaldson for Good One. This is another movie that doesn't have audio description. No audio description. It's a little quiet indie movie, camping. She captures the moments really well, the beats, and then she kind of hits you in the third act, and you're not ready for it. And I thought India sat in that moment perfectly, and really she works with like 3 actors, 2 of which I did not really know. There's only one actor here who's maybe known, who you would maybe recognize. And I thought, yeah, she got strong performances out of this cast. It's not that long of a movie. It's not a horror movie. It's just a nice little indie drama. And I know some other people have recognized her with the feature directorial debut. I want to say she got something from the Gothams. I think they named her. Anyway, um, yeah, I'm excited to see more from India in the future. If you can do this much with this little, I wonder what you can do with a little bit more. So, moving up the list. Number 4 is Corey Sherman for Big Boys. Almost the same thing. It was trying to figure out who goes above who. They're very similar movies. They're both camping movies. They're both sort of coming of age movies. They're both really good. Neither of them have audio description. So they don't really have, they have one like well-known actor that's anchoring the thing at all. Except in this one, Emily Deschanel is barely in the movie. So yeah, I liked Big Boys, and I would love for Corey Sherman to get more. I think there were a lot of queer movies this year, and some other directorial debuts. And I did consider putting National Anthem. It was on the longer list, but as I was whittling it down to 10, ultimately I felt like in terms of queer voices, I would much rather know what Corey Sherman has to say next, or Vera Drew. And those stood out to me as being the voices that I would love. I want to hear more from them. So I really liked Big Boys. I hope you get a chance to see it. And it's a cute little movie. It is. It's not as when I say the term queer and you run from hills, please don't. It's not nearly the way I think a lot of people would be charmed by Big Boys if they just gave it a chance. It's not queer with Daniel Craig. Those are 2 totally different movies. Moving up the list. Zoe Kravitz for Blink Twice is my number 3. So I did keep one of the actors. I thought of the films that I saw this year that were directed by an actor, she had something to say. She came into Blink Twice with something to say. And Blink Twice surprised me. She got some really good performances out of actors that you weren't expecting. She sort of knew what she wanted from her guys, and she sort of picked a bunch of guys that she wouldn't expect to have those performances and then made them have those performances, which is kind of impressive for a feature directorial debut. It's a story that kind of messes with your mind, and it's not so easily represented on the surface as one may think. It veers a little bit into horror territory, but most of it is just like a psychological thriller, and she really did bite off a really big chunk here. And a lot of times when actors start directing things, they call in the favors, and they get themselves the cast. Like, you may notice, and don't worry, he's not ahead. Chris Pine is not on this list for Pool Man, but the fact that he was able to get Annette Bening, Danny DeVito, and a bunch of other actors in it, yeah, it's because he's Chris Pine. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, I think Blink Twice, when you look at Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut, she was gifted a little bit more because of being Zoe Kravitz, whereas people like India Donaldson were not, and Corey Sherman were not. She had a little bit bigger of a budget. She had some cast members, and the film ended up getting a wide release. Same thing could be said, though, for Dev Patel's Monkey Man, and people went to bat for Anna Kendrick's Woman of the Hour. So, I mean, she wasn't the only one. She didn't live in obscurity, but I'm really interested to see what she does again. I think we might have an auteur, or this could be a one-off, but we'll see. But she's number 3. My number 2, my runner-up for Best Feature Directorial Debut of the Year is Julio Torres for Problemista. I saw this and it blew me away in so much that it was sort of like stunningly original. And Julio very much has his own voice. It's not always going to work. Julio's voice will not work for everybody, and I know some people who hate Problemista. So, like I watched, he also had a show on Max, the name of which escapes me. But even when I was watching that as a fan of Problemista, it's like some of it worked for me and then some of it didn't. But he does make bold choices. And I think here, when he allowed sort of more of himself into the story, it really made for an interesting movie. Plus, Tilda Swinton is fantastic in this. She's so good in this movie. Of the 3 performances she gave this year, my favorite of hers was in Problemista. So, yeah, I think Julio, coming from the angle of a comedy writer, moving into his feature directorial debut, being given sort of the latitude by A24. It's a great studio if you want to get latitude, you know, because they don't mind if it's weird. They don't mind if it's cuckoo bananas. They're like, oh, we embrace cuckoo bananas here at A24. Our A24 audience has become accustomed to the fact that we may release anything upon them at any time. If we release something that's too normal, we get called out for it. So, yeah, I enjoyed Problemista, and he's my. So who's my? Of course it is. You know, there's a name that's missing, and I either vehemently hated that movie or it's number one. So yeah, my winner for best directorial debut of 2024 is, of course, Rebel Ross for Nickel Boys. I think you don't take a swing like that with he. It's interesting because he has done documentary, and that precluded him from being nominated in some places, along with the director of Didi, Sean Wong. I'm pulling that from memory. If I got it wrong, I apologize. Both of them had done documentary work, so some, due to the rules of some first feature awards, they were not considered. But he was, by the DGA, considered to be a directorial debut. So, feature directorial debut. So, Remmel also makes my list here. I think that, it's just such an interesting swing, for nothing, for no other reason. It's like, are you going to do this every other movie? Like, I'm so interested to see the next movie because I'm like, is he going to do everything from first person? Or, and people haven't fully responded to Nickel Boys. It definitely is a divisive movie, but it's a film that everybody's talking about. Like, it's a film that's gotten people discussing, is this the best way to adapt this story? Does first person work? Actors like to be seen on screen, all those sorts of things. Did he, did he give Anjanou Ellis enough screen time? All those sorts of things. You could debate Nickel Boys till the cows come home, but the truth is, he got into the Best Picture race. So it's a directorial debut that landed the Best Picture nomination. And while he may not have gotten the director nomination, he got his film in the Best Picture. And it's because it's a love it or hate it movie. And sometimes it's better to be exciting and to have people talking about you in that way and to create those sorts of conversations. I'm not going to say the other direction and to just create a conversation where everybody hates you, like Uwe Boll, where people are just sort of baffled that you continue to get movies. Earlier, when you look at his early work, it really was like that. It was like, how is this dude still making movies? Who is funding him? Like, there wasn't anything that was coming out that was good. But here, it's more fun to debate the various, decisions that he made on Nickel Boys, and the merits of them. So, Remmel Ross, congratulations, you're my winner for Best Feature Directorial Debut. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll be back with another top 10 list. See you guys on the other side.